Hi, welcome to our tutorial on economic order quantity. EOQ is an important part of inventory theory and one of the oldest production scheduling models out there. We use a formula in order to calculate the very best order size in order to balance the cost of holding the inventory versus the cost of placing the orders. The EOQ model applies only when we've got regular, consistent demand for a product throughout the course of the year. Also, when we have a fixed cost for placing each order, as well as a cost for owning each inventory item throughout the year. Also, we assume that the cost of the item is fixed. We assume that our lead time is constant from our suppliers, and also that the whole batch is arriving on time. So, let's watch and do an example. There are two types of basic inventory systems. The first one we'll call a fixed order quantity system, or a Q system, or an EOQ system, which is the topic of our tutorial today. In an EOQ system, we always assume that we have a perpetual or a running inventory system. So we always know at any time how much stock we've got on hand. And whenever there's an inventory withdrawal, our inventory is updated. We call this system as being event triggered. When we reach a certain reorder point, we will place an order for a consistent number of units. So as an example, whenever our inventory of a particular item reaches 10 units, we will automatically place an order for 50. The second type of inventory system is a fixed time period, or a P system, or you may hear it referred to as a periodic review system. In this type of inventory system, we don't necessarily have a running inventory, but we call this system as being time triggered. Every week or every month at the same time, someone will go into a stock room, they'll evaluate the amount of inventory that's on hand, and they will place an order. It may be a small order if there hasn't been a lot of usage, or it may be a larger order. With the fixed order quantity inventory system, we can calculate the very best order size, which is our economic order quantity. The information that we need to do this calculation consists of, firstly, we need to know the annual demand quantity. We are assuming that there is regular, consistent usage of this inventory item over the course of the year, and that we can calculate the annual demand for the item. The second thing that we need is we need to know what is the order cost. So every time we place an order, there's a cost associated with that, and that cost mainly consists of the wages, the systems, the expediting, the follow-up of the orders. If we're manufacturing this inventory item, then the costs would be our setup costs. And those are all the costs that are incurred in the equipment and the tooling getting prepared for the production run. The third item we need to know is our holding cost. This holding cost is how much does it cost us to keep one inventory item in our stock over a period of a year. The formula to calculate the EOQ consists of the square root of 2 times the annual demand times the setup cost divided by the holding cost. Let's do an EOQ example. A company purchases an item from a supplier for $40 each. The annual usage is 5,000 units per year. Each order costs $75. Each item costs $10 per year in holding cost. What is the best order size? We've got our EOQ formula. So we'll substitute 5,000 for D, the annual demand. We'll put $75 for our S, our setup cost, and our holding cost is $10. We find here that our EOQ is 273.86. Of course, we can't order 0.86 of a unit. Let's assume that we can order a whole number that we want, so we'll round our EOQ up to 274 units. Let's assume that we have decided to use this economic order quantity of 274 units. Let's look at our annual costs based on that order size. We can figure out what does it cost us over the course of a year for our annual ordering or setup costs. The way to do this is to simply take our annual demand and divide by our order quantity, and that will tell us how many orders we're placing throughout the year. And we just multiply that by the setup cost, which is how much does it cost us to place every order. In this case, we take 5,000, divide by our order size of 274. Each order costs $75, and we see that it costs $1,368.61. We can compare this to our annual holding costs. The formula to calculate our annual holding costs consists of our order quantity divided by 2 and multiply that by our holding cost. We use Q over 2 to figure out what our average inventory is, because at any particular point in time, we'll tend to have about half of our order size on hand. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. So this average inventory, we can multiply that by how much does it cost us to keep one item in inventory for a year, and that will give us an approximation of how much our holding cost will be. So we'll take 274, divide by 2, multiply by our 10, and that gives us $1,370. If your first thought is, gee, those numbers are almost the same, well, you're right, those numbers are almost the same. Let's take a look at the total cost graph. If you take a look at the X and Y axis, we see the X axis has the order quantity size, and the Y axis is the cost. The red line shows us the annual ordering cost. We see here that if our order size is very low, we're going to be placing a lot of orders. And in which case, as our order size gets bigger, the cost will be reduced because we will be placing fewer orders. Take a look at the blue line. This is our annual holding cost. As our order size gets bigger, well, of course, our average inventory is going to get bigger, and our annual holding cost is going to get bigger. The black horizontal line simply refers to the annual cost of purchasing the items. That line doesn't change. We're assuming that we'll be paying the same price throughout the course of the year. Take a look at the bright green line. That represents our total cost for this inventory item. That green line is a combination of the lines below it. Where you see the middle that indicates the lowest total cost, you'll notice that that's the intersection of the red line and the blue line. That represents our EOQ, or our economic order size. That's why when we used an order size of 274, we found that the annual ordering cost and the annual holding costs were the same. Let's take a look at the total cost for our order quantity. The first thing we'll do is we'll take $40 and we'll multiply by our annual usage of 5,000 units. That will give us our total purchase cost over the course of the year. The second cost we need to include is our annual ordering or setup cost. We'll take our annual demand and we'll divide by our order size of 274 units. That will tell us how many orders we're going to place over the year. Then we multiply that number of orders by $75, and that tells us how much we will spend ordering the inventory item. Then we want to calculate our annual holding cost. We'll take our order size of 274 and divide by 2. That'll give us our average inventory amount on hand. We'll multiply that by $10. That's our holding cost of holding over the course of the year. We add these values up and we come up with a number of $202,738.61.